My family texted, "We need distance from you. Please don't contact us anymore." At all, my uncle boxed them up. I calmly replied, "Of course. I'll stop my direct payments first thing." By midnight, the family. I never thought a single text could obliterate years of sacrifice. But the moment it arrived, cutting me off from everyone I loved, I knew my entire world was about to shatter, and there was no stopping what came next. It was a Tuesday morning, just like any other, as I sat at my desk, preparing for a client meeting. My phone buzzed, a notification from our family group chat. A space usually reserved for holiday plans or silly memes. But the words that appeared were anything but light. "We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore at all." They came from my mother, Sarah's number, but the message was clearly from them all. 13 words. No emojis, no explanation. Just a stark, absolute excommunication. My hands trembled as I reread it, then a third time. Each word seemed to magnify, consuming my vision. My assistant, Marissa, noticed. "Chloe, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." I mumbled something, feeling hollow, and when she left, I dialed Sarah. Straight to voicemail. Then my father, David. Voicemail. My brothers, Ethan and Liam, and my sister, Olivia, all went straight to voicemail. It was a coordinated blackout, a wall of silence. Panic clawed at my throat. Was this about the loan? Had something awful happened? Finally, I called my Uncle Mark, David's older brother. He answered on the second ring, his voice gentle but troubled. "Chloe," he said, "I was just about to call you." He was at my parents' house. There'd been a family meeting last night, one neither of us was invited to. A meeting, he explained apologetically, about me. After I'd confronted them about the fraudulent loan, they'd decided I was too controlling with money, that I was using financial support to manipulate them. The accusation hit like a physical blow. They committed fraud, and I was the manipulator? Uncle Mark tried to soothe me, agreeing it was completely backward, but they'd convinced themselves I'd changed, that success had made me look down on them. My mother was particularly upset about my suggestion of financial planning at a dinner last month, viewing it as an insult. The loan? They were minimizing it, calling it a misunderstanding I was blowing out of proportion to punish them. I sank into my chair, my legs giving out. So this text, cutting me off completely, was their response to me questioning one fraudulent loan after years of giving them everything. "It's worse than that," Uncle Mark admitted reluctantly. "They're planning to write out this arrangement until, and I quote, she realizes what she's lost and apologizes." Apologizes? The word was a whisper. They expected me to come crawling back, believing I needed them more than they needed me. A lifetime of patterns flashed before me, birthdays where my cash gifts were never reciprocated, holidays where I traveled to them, but they never visited me, achievements acknowledged only briefly before steering back to their needs. Did they realize I'd given them over $175,000 in the past 5 years? Uncle Mark's low, long whistle confirmed his shock. "No," he said, "I don't think they conceptualize it that way. In their minds, that's just what family does for each other. Though the support only seems to flow in one direction." Growing up in a Dallas suburb, our house looked perfect, but it was constantly teetering on financial collapse. I developed a talent for numbers early, organizing my allowance while other kids blew theirs on candy. It wasn't a quirk, it was survival. By 12, I understood our family budget better than my parents. David cycled through failed business ventures, each draining our savings, but never his optimism. "This one will be different, Chloe Q," he'd say, ruffling my hair while I worried about bills. Sarah compensated by pretending financial instability didn't exist, buying name brands, hosting lavish parties, maintaining memberships we couldn't afford. "Appearances matter," she'd say, sliding another credit card bill into a drawer. My younger siblings, Ethan, Olivia, and Liam, lived in the bubble our parents created. Ethan believed money magically appeared. Olivia inherited Sarah's taste for luxury without the shame of debt. Liam, the youngest, was the most spoiled, his gaming addiction starting early. I took a different path. At 16, I worked at a grocery store. During college at the University of Michigan, I juggled 3 jobs, maintaining a 3.9 GPA in finance. No spring breaks, no sorority, just work, study, and calls from home when bills came due. My first job after graduation at Anderson Financial Consulting changed everything. A $70,000 starting salary felt like winning the lottery. Within a month, student loans were gone. Within 2, I started helping at home. The mortgage, Ethan's car insurance, Olivia's influencer career startup, Liam's community college tuition, which he promptly wasted. The pattern became clear, but I ignored it. Family calls always started with small talk, but inevitably led to money. Sarah's tactics were subtle guilt trips. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof with these bills. David, his pride making direct asks impossible, would mention problems only money could solve. The heating system is making that noise again. Probably nothing, but the repair guy wants $2,000 to look at it. Ethan had no subtlety. Sis, I'm in a bind. Need $1,500 by Friday, or they'll repossess the car. Olivia's requests came wrapped in promises of future fame. Just $3,000 for this influencer marketing course, and the sponsorships will roll in. Liam rarely called, preferring our parents make his requests, but when he did, it was usually late at night. My rent's due tomorrow. Can you transfer $2,000? I'll get a job next month. Promise? Uncle Mark, the only voice of reason, pulled me aside at Thanksgiving 3 years ago. They're using you, Chloe, he said, his voice low. You know that, right? I nodded but defended them. They're family. They'd do the same for me. His eyebrows rose. Would they, though? When's the last time any of them asked about your life without wanting something? I couldn't answer. Still, I continued, transferring money, paying bills, financing dreams, while mine sat on hold. My small apartment remained functional while I paid for their roof repairs. My practical, aging car while I made Ethan's luxury car payments. My weekend trips to nearby states while I funded Olivia's Instagram-worthy trips to Bali. Deep down, Uncle Mark was right. Admitting it meant facing the painful truth. My family's love was conditional, based on what I could provide, not who I was. So, I kept giving, hoping when I truly needed them, they would be there for me. Last year, the demands intensified. Occasional requests became near-weekly. Emergencies. In February, Ethan called me at work, panicked. They're taking my car, Chloe, right now. I heard the rumble of a diesel engine. Ethan, we talked about this. You promised to make payments. I know, but that job fell through, unexpected expenses. Those expenses, I later discovered, included a weekend in Vegas. Still, I transferred $4,000. 2 days later, he posted photos with a new gaming system. March brought Olivia's latest venture. After her travel influencer attempt fizzled, she decided her true calling was beauty products. $10,000 to become a distributor, she explained over lunch. I recognized the pyramid scheme. You just don't believe in me, she accused, tears welling. The irony was painful. I was the only one funding her dreams. Still, I compromised, giving her $5,000. She took it without thanks and didn't speak to me for 3 weeks. April was Liam's gaming equipment emergency, $3,000 for upgrades. When I suggested a job, Sarah intervened. He's going through a tough time. This gaming thing could become a career. I pointed out successful streamers worked incredibly hard. This was met with frosty silence, followed by David calling to express disappointment in my lack of support for your brother's passion. May brought home repairs, $6,000 for a leaking roof. But once contractors were involved, additional problems kept being discovered. The $6,000 became $10,000, then $15,000, then $20,000. During a June visit home, I noticed something odd, minimal exterior repairs, but Sarah had a new living room set and David an expensive watch. When I cautiously asked, Sarah grew defensive. We're not children, Chloe. We don't need to justify every penny to you. That Sunday, I tried a different approach. I offered to help everyone create financial plans, set budgets, and work toward independence. I'm happy to help, I said carefully, but I think we need a long-term solution. I found some great financial planning tools. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Sarah pushed food around her plate. David cleared his throat. My siblings stared at their phones. Are you saying you won't help us anymore? Sarah finally asked, her voice small and hurt. Not at all, I backpedaled. I just thought it might be good for everyone to have more control over their finances. We're doing just fine, David said, firmly ending the discussion. Later, I overheard Olivia and Sarah in the pantry. She's becoming so controlling, Olivia whispered. It's like because she has money, she thinks she can tell us all what to do. She's always been that way, Sarah replied. Miss Perfect with her budgets and savings. She doesn't understand not everyone thinks about money all the time. I stood frozen, dish towel in hand. Their words cut deeper than they could know. Was that how they saw me? Not as generous, but controlling? Not responsible, but obsessed? Despite this revelation, I continued helping through summer and fall. But my questions became more pointed, my transfers more delayed. I was enabling destructive patterns, not helping them thrive. The true breaking point came in December. A collection agency called about a loan in default, one I'd never taken out. My parents had applied for a $30,000 loan 6 months earlier, using my information as a guarantor without my knowledge or consent. They'd made no payments. When confronted, they acted as though it was a simple misunderstanding. We thought you knew, David said dismissively. We mentioned needing a loan for the house repairs, and you said you'd help. This was just easier. You forged my signature, I said, my voice shaking. That's fraud. Don't be so dramatic, Sarah interjected. We're family. It's not like we're strangers using your information. That night, I lay awake, a lifetime of patterns suddenly crystal clear. The collection call wasn't a mistake. It was the inevitable escalation of years of financial exploitation disguised as family need. After hanging up with Uncle Mark, I canceled my meetings for the day, claiming illness. It wasn't far from the truth. I felt physically sick. Back in my apartment, I scrolled through old family photos, searching for clues. There we were at Ethan's graduation, my proud smile knowing I'd paid for the tuition. Olivia's 21st, funded by me, flown to despite an important presentation the next day. David and Sarah's 30th anniversary, a weekend getaway I'd surprised them with. In each photo, I searched their faces for genuine affection, any indication I was valued beyond what my bank account could provide. The evidence was thin at best. Around midnight, after hours of this painful archaeology, I found myself sobbing on my kitchen floor, an empty wine glass beside me. The pain was physical, a crushing weight on my chest. The ultimate betrayal wasn't the loan or even the text. It was the realization that perhaps I had never been loved for myself, only for what I could provide. I fell asleep there on the cold tile, emotionally exhausted, my phone clutched in my hand, just in case anyone from my family called to say it had all been a terrible mistake. No one did. The next morning, puffy and disoriented, I made it through one client call before breaking down in the women's restroom. Lisa, a coworker, found me there. Chloe, she asked gently, can I help? Her kindness, offered without expectation, broke the dam completely. Between hiccuping sobs, I told her everything, the years of financial support, the escalating demands, the fraudulent loan, and finally, the text cutting me off for daring to question it. Lisa listened intently. When I finished, she took my hands. Chloe, I need you to hear something that might be hard to accept. What you're describing isn't normal family support. It's financial abuse. The term hit me like cold water. Abuse seems extreme. They're not bad people. They just take advantage of your generosity, manipulate your emotions to extract money, cut you off when you set a reasonable boundary, Lisa countered firmly. If this was a romantic partner treating you this way, would you hesitate to call it abuse? She had a point. Lisa gave me her therapist's number, specializing in financial abuse. I called Dr. Taylor's office and got an appointment for the next day. Walking into her warm, minimalist office, I felt terrified and relieved. Dr. Taylor listened as I unspooled the tangled history. When I finished, she asked a question that changed everything. Do you have documentation of how much you've provided to your family over the years? I nodded. I keep detailed financial records. It's part of my job. She asked me to calculate the exact amount before our next session. That evening, I pulled out bank statements, credit card records, spreadsheets. I created a new document, Family Financial Support. Hours later, I stared at the final figure in disbelief. $178,642 since graduating college 8 years ago. Nearly all labeled as unpaid loans. But the accounting revealed something even more disturbing. My current credit report showed 3 credit cards I didn't recognize. My parents and Ethan had opened cards in my name, with balances over $22,000. I dug deeper. 2 cell phone plans for Liam and Olivia, a furniture store credit line for Sarah and David's new living room set, a lease agreement for Ethan's apartment listing me as a co-responsible party. By dawn, I had uncovered over $45,000 in fraudulent debt and financial obligations. This wasn't just a single loan. This was systematic identity theft by my own family. I called Uncle Mark, time zones be damned. They're still using my information, I said, my voice eerily calm. Credit cards, phone plans, lease agreements, all without my knowledge. Uncle Mark was silent. I had no idea it went that far, he finally said. I knew about the loan, but not the rest. He confirmed they'd been planning their next financial requests before I confronted them, even discussing a timeshare opportunity. A strange laugh escaped me. They were planning to cut me off if I didn't agree, weren't they? This whole space thing was already their backup plan. I think so, Uncle Mark admitted. When you confronted them about the loan, they just accelerated the timeline. As the sun rose, something crystallized within me. This wasn't love. This wasn't family. This was exploitation, pure and simple. With that clarity came a resolve I'd never felt before. I need to protect myself, I said, more to myself than to Uncle Mark. Whatever it takes. My first call that morning wasn't to my family, but to Diane Harrison, my financial advisor. She helped me create a comprehensive plan, stop all automatic payments, contact credit bureaus to report fraudulent accounts, secure existing accounts with new passwords. Next, I called Robert Jensen, an attorney specializing in identity theft. Family identity theft is actually more damaging and difficult to resolve, he explained. There's the financial component, but also the emotional betrayal. I won't let emotions stop me from protecting myself, I assured him, though my voice wavered slightly. What your family has done constitutes criminal fraud. You have every right to pursue charges. The thought of my parents or siblings facing criminal charges made my stomach turn. Let's start with stopping the bleeding and securing my identity, I said. I'll decide about charges later. By evening, I had executed a detailed financial protection plan, canceled all automatic transfers, frozen my credit, reported fraudulent accounts, changed all passwords, documented unauthorized accounts, and set up fraud alerts. My phone remained silent. No calls from family wondering why their financial lifelines had been cut. The silence confirmed they were waiting for me to crack. Around 8 that evening, I crafted my response to the family text. I considered lengthy explanations, emotional appeals, detailed accountings. In the end, I opted for simplicity. Of course, I'll cancel my direct deposits first thing. I hit send, feeling a weight lift. 7 words that reclaimed my power. Within minutes, my phone exploded. Sarah called 3 times. David texted, asking what I meant. Ethan sent a string of messages about a misunderstanding. Olivia wanted to know if I was seriously being this petty. Liam, typically the least communicative, sent a single text, "What about my phone bill?" I silenced my phone and poured a glass of wine, savoring the quiet satisfaction. When I checked an hour later, Uncle Mark had sent a single text that made me smile for the first time in days. "Proud of you." They're panicking. I called him back. "Are you still at their house?" "I was," he said, amusement in his voice. "But I left after your text landed." "You should have seen their faces, Chloe." Sarah read it aloud and went white as a sheet. David started immediately calculating which bills would bounce first. "Your siblings were all on their phones checking account balances." "Good," I said, surprised at how little guilt I felt. "They needed a reality check." "That's putting it mildly," Uncle Mark chuckled. "Sarah tried to convince me to talk to you, to tell you family comes first." When I pointed out they were the ones who cut you off, she said that was different, and they just needed a break from your financially controlling behavior. When I asked how your behavior was controlling, but their expectations weren't, she asked me to leave. You didn't have to do that, Uncle Mark. Yes, I did. I packed my overnight bag and told them I couldn't support how they were treating you. It was long overdue. Honestly, I've watched this dynamic for years and said too little. His solidarity brought tears to my eyes, the first that day not from pain. Thank you. Don't thank me. I should have said something sooner. But Chloe, be prepared. This is just the beginning of their reaction. Once they realize you're serious, things will escalate. He was right. Within 2 hours, the messages shifted from confusion to anger. David sent a lengthy text about family loyalty. Sarah left a tearful voicemail claiming they'd only asked for space for my negativity, not for financial support to end. Ethan alternated between threats and pleas. Olivia posted a vague social media message about toxic family members who only care about money. Through it all, I maintained my silence. Each ignored message strengthened my resolve. The family that had asked for no contact was suddenly desperate to reach me. The irony was thick. That night, I slept better than I had in years, waking to dozens more missed calls and messages. Among them, a text from Uncle Mark. They're planning to show up at your apartment tonight. Fair warning. I spent the day preparing for the confrontation, not by crafting arguments, but by centering myself. I cleaned my apartment, bought fresh flowers, ordered my favorite takeout. When the doorbell rang at 7:30 that evening, I was ready. By midnight, my family was in complete crisis mode. The confrontation hadn't gone as they expected. Sarah arrived first, armed with tears and guilt, followed by David and Ethan. Olivia and Liam joined via speakerphone once the conversation turned hostile. I allowed them into my living room but set immediate boundaries. I'll listen to what you have to say, but I won't be changing my mind about the financial support. Sarah's tears dried quickly. This is about the loan, isn't it? We were going to pay you back. This is about 8 years of one-way financial support, unauthorized accounts in my name, and a family dynamic that values me only for what I can provide, I replied calmly. David tried to appeal to my sense of duty. We raised you, put food on the table, kept a roof over your head. That's what families do for each other. Yes, parents are supposed to provide for their children. That's the commitment you made when you had me. I never made a commitment to support 4 adults indefinitely. Ethan paced, visibly agitated. So, you're just cutting us off completely? Just like that? What about my lease? What about the car payment due next week? Those are your responsibilities, Ethan. You're 30 years old. It's time you learn to support yourself. The conversation devolved, cycling through every emotional manipulation tactic. Sarah brought up childhood illnesses. David mentioned college. Application essays. Ethan reminded me of times he'd picked me up from work. Olivia, via speakerphone. I thought you believed in my dreams. Was that all lies? I do believe you're capable of achieving your dreams, Olivia, but not while someone else funds your life. Real success comes from building something yourself. Liam, typically quiet, finally spoke. What am I supposed to do about my phone? It's going to get shut off. Get a job, Liam. Like everyone else. The back and forth lasted hours. David suggested legal action. Sarah hinted she'd tell extended family I'd abandon them. Ethan stated he'd default on the lease that fraudulently listed me, damaging my credit further. Through it all, I maintained my position with a calm I didn't know I possessed. When they finally left around 11:30, having secured no commitments, the true panic began. Uncle Mark called around 1 a.m. They just had an emergency family meeting. I was still awake. Your father is realizing the mortgage payment is due in 3 days with no way to cover it. Your mother is worried about the minimum payments on those store credit cards. Ethan discovered his car insurance lapsed because the automatic payment from your account didn't go through. I felt a twinge of worry, quickly suppressed. Those aren't my problems anymore. I know, and I agree. I'm just keeping you informed. They're making desperate plans. The next few days brought financial reality crashing down. Olivia's Instagram, once filled with lavish trips, suddenly featured posts about simple pleasures. Ethan, faced with actual job hunting, discovered his resume gaps made finding employment challenging. Liam's gaming streams ended when his internet was disconnected. He moved back home. David and Sarah faced the most significant adjustments. Mortgage late fees, missed credit card payments, their facade of stability crumbling. Through Uncle Mark, I heard these developments, but remained firm. A week after my financial separation, Sarah showed up at my apartment again alone. Her appearance had changed dramatically. Simple jeans, roots showing, bare nails. 5 minutes, I said, allowing her in. Chloe, we're really struggling, she began, her voice lacking its usual theatrical quality. The mortgage is past due. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof. Ethan might lose his apartment. I understand this is difficult, I said evenly, but these are natural consequences of financial decisions you've all made. We're family, she said, as if those 2 words explained everything. Family doesn't commit fraud against each other. Family doesn't value money over relationship. Family doesn't cut someone off for setting reasonable boundaries. Her expression hardened. So this is punishment. You're teaching us a lesson. No, Mom. I'm simply allowing you all to experience the reality most adults live with, financial responsibility for your own lives. She left shortly after. No resolution reached. But something had shifted. The desperate panic was evolving into reluctant acceptance. David called the next day, far more aggressive. Your mother is devastated. Is that what you wanted? To hurt her? To hurt all of us? What I wanted was a healthy relationship with my family that wasn't based on financial exploitation, I replied, keeping my voice calm. Nobody exploited you. We asked for help, and you gave it. Did I consent to the credit cards opened in my name? The loan using my information as guarantor? The cell phone plans, the lease agreement. His momentary silence acknowledged what he wouldn't say aloud. We were desperate. And now you're experiencing the consequences of that desperation without using me as a safety net. That's all. More attempts at reconciliation came, all with strings attached. Ethan suggested dinner, letting slip he needed help with a car situation. Olivia proposed a sister day that somehow included a business investment piece. Liam mentioned his gaming equipment had been pawned by David to cover bills. Through it all, I maintained my boundaries with increasing confidence. Uncle Mark reported a family meeting to devise a strategy to get me to forgive and forget, even recruiting extended. Family. Most relatives took their side, but a few, like my cousin Jennifer, reached out with nuanced perspectives. They did the same thing to me, she confided. Not to the same extent, but after I got my nursing degree, everyone needed loans. It took me 2 years of therapy to stop feeling guilty for saying no. These conversations reinforced I wasn't alone, wasn't overreacting, and wasn't wrong to protect myself. Each day of maintained boundaries built my confidence and clarity. The first week without contact became 2, then a month. I channeled my energy into healing, meeting with Dr. Taylor. As my family's attempts to manipulate me failed, they were forced to find other solutions. Uncle Mark reported Ethan had taken a job at a local warehouse. Olivia was managing her company's social media. Liam had taken a retail position and enrolled in community college. David and Sarah downsized, selling their house, and David took a sales associate position, swallowing his pride. Sarah started selling craft projects online. These weren't immediate transformations, but reluctant adjustments. And through it all, I discovered something surprising. I was happier, lighter, more peaceful than I had been in years. Without the constant drain on my finances and emotional energy, I began to flourish. 6 months after that life-changing text, my world had transformed. My apartment was now a 2-bedroom condo, decorated exactly as I wanted. My savings held a healthy reserve. My investment portfolio was growing, securing my future. But the financial improvements paled in comparison to the emotional transformation. Through work with Dr. Taylor, I unraveled the complex web of codependency, guilt, and misplaced responsibility. Financial codependency often mirrors addiction dynamics, she explained. You were the enabler, making it possible for your family to avoid the natural consequences of their choices. And like many enablers, you did it out of love, believing you were helping. I thought if I just gave enough, They would eventually become self-sufficient, I admitted. That's the enabler's hope. But enabling typically prevents growth. By removing your financial support, you've actually given them something far more valuable, the opportunity to develop their own capabilities and resilience. This reframing eased the lingering guilt. Uncle Mark brought news of their progress. Ethan was the longest he'd ever held a job, even getting a potential promotion. Olivia was promoted. Liam, from the lowest starting point, was taking computer science classes. David and Sarah were working with a credit counseling service. These changes weren't easy, often met with resentment. I was still the villain in their narrative, the daughter who had abandoned them. But beneath the resentment, a grudging respect was growing. 3 months after the cutoff, I began building a new social circle. Lisa became a close friend, introducing me to women with healthy boundaries. I joined a hiking group, pursuing activities I never had time for. I even started dating again. Michael, a landscape architect, showed me what a balanced relationship could look like. 5 months after the cutoff, I received my first direct communication from a family member other than Uncle Mark. Sarah sent a text, "The credit counselor has been helpful. Thank you for suggesting financial planning back then, even though we weren't ready to hear it." It wasn't an apology, but it was an acknowledgement. I responded simply, "I'm glad it's helping." 6 months to the day after that devastating group text, another message arrived from Sarah. This one longer, more reflective. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about our relationship. I realize now that we came to depend on you in ways that weren't fair or healthy. I can't speak for everyone, but I want you to know that I miss you. Not your financial help, but you, my daughter. If you're ever open to talking, I would like that. On your terms." This brought tears to my eyes, not from pain, but from the recognition that perhaps healing was possible. After discussing it with Dr. Taylor, I crafted a careful response, setting clear conditions for any rebuilding, acknowledgement of the financial exploitation, concrete steps to address fraudulent accounts, commitment to financial independence, and respect for my boundaries. To my surprise, Sarah agreed. 2 weeks later, we met for coffee. It was awkward, tense, but contained glimmers of a potential new relationship. Similar tentative reconnections began with other family members. Ethan genuinely thanked me for a job reference. Olivia shared news of her promotion without a hint of needing investment. Liam sent a simple message about passing his first college courses. These weren't fairy tale reconciliations. Years of unhealthy patterns couldn't be undone in months. But they were steps towards something more balanced, more authentic, and ultimately more loving. The most profound change, however, was within myself. I had discovered a strength I never knew I possessed, the ability to stand firm in my worth beyond what I could provide. I learned that true generosity comes from choice, not obligation or manipulation. And perhaps most importantly, I learned that family who truly loves you wants your well-being, not just your wallet. The journey from financial enabler to empowered individual had been painful, but the freedom on the other side was worth every difficult moment. I now understood that sometimes the greatest love you can show family is allowing them to stand on their own. And the greatest love you can show yourself is believing you deserve better than exploitation disguised as love. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took advantage of your generosity?